You good? Yeah. We good? All right. Shalom, y'all. I'm Brother Jacob. Welcome to today's class. To my left, we got
Brother Jeremiah.
Jeremiah he's on the computer running OBS. But today he beside me. Today's topic, we're going into Purim. Now, Purim isn't today, it's tomorrow. It comes in tomorrow night. And let me say this too, it's not a Sabbath. It's a 2-day feast, and it's not a Sabbath. So you don't have to worry. You can buy and sell. It's a day of memorial. So we're gonna get into it and explain some stuff, what happened, why we celebrated, and maybe look at some other dynamics of some things that's going on within it too. Everything, when you look at everything, is based upon some kind of law. And the Lord allows things to happen, but at the same time, he's not going to let us be destroyed, completely destroyed as a nation. Excuse me. Like, it's been a long, long time, since Christ did what he did for our nation. But even though we're scattered everywhere, we're scattered throughout the earth, the Lord will not allow us to be brought to a full end. As he's always promised. He's always promised that he's going to save us. He's going to save a remnant. No matter what it looked like, he's going to save a remnant. That's what he told Elijah. When what's that wicked woman? Jezebel was trying to have him exterminated. And the Lord was like, no, I got 5,000 men reserved. That's what Paul was saying in Romans 11. But let's open up. We're going to open up with something different today.
All right.
Something that we've been through before and explained, so y'all should understand it. Let's open up with Matthew chapter 28, one of the Christianity scriptures. And verse 18. It's crazy. As you're reading through this stuff, it brings to mind things that's being taught in Christianity and makes you think, like, that doesn't make sense. Verse 18.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 28, and verse 18. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth.
So in order for that power to be given to him, it had to be given from someone. Right. We run across brothers that think, talk about the triune God and all this stuff. He has a father. He was sent to do the will of the Father. That is, give himself for Israel and teach Israel so that Israel can return to the Father. Verse 19.
Verse 19. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost.
Which are all saying the same thing. That word that the Father and Christ left behind in this book, that understanding is in this book. That's the Holy Ghost. And the Son and the Father all saying the same thing on one accord. Like when you read in John 17, the Father, the Son, and all the disciples on one accord. Go ahead.
Verse 20. Teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you.
Which was the understanding and the commandments. Keep them. He said, if ye love me, keep my commandments. That's only for Israel. It's time to come out of the weirdness and the doctrine of our enemies. Finish that out.
And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
Right.
Amen.
Even unto the end of the world. Amen. So, before we get into the book of Esther itself, let's go to Leviticus 5 and 1. Go ahead.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 5 and verse 1. And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness, whether he have seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity.
So the law is telling you that if you see or hear of something, then you're supposed to tell it. This, our nation does not get destroyed because of this law right here. Even when you look at Apostle Paul, when the wicked Jews had taken a vow, I believe it was 40 of them, and they took a vow so that they would neither eat nor sleep nor drink until they killed Paul. Well, that young Paul's nephew heard it, He told Paul, and Paul had him go and tell the Romans, the soldiers. And Paul was rescued out of that. So we don't deal with the no snitching policy. The Lord said so. Now you can drop this. Let's go to Psalms chapter 10. We start at verse 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 10 and verse 1. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble?
Right. When we need him, why is he hiding his face from us? You know, you go to Hosea 5:15, he said he's going to hide his face from us until we acknowledge our sin. The whole reason there's always calamity at our door is because of our sin, because of our wickedness. Go ahead, verse 2.
Verse 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth.
I keep thinking back. As you're reading this, I'm thinking back to last night. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. So there was a video that I clipped it, but I didn't post it because it was really bad. So there was some white man that's in front of some building, government building or something. And the older brother, they were talking to the camera, and the older brother comes over there, and they were saying, see, he know we good people. But you could tell the brother was ashamed. He didn't really want to say how he felt about them. The camera was on him, and he's in front of them. They know they persecuting that man. They persecuting the rest of our people, the rest of the slaves. They know it. That's just how they are. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. So the same people, they're going to be taken in their devices in the end of this, for those that don't know. Go ahead. Go jump to verse 4.
Verse 4. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts.
So the wicked, and in his pride, will not seek after God. Right. Right, because God should be in all your thoughts.
Right.
That's how you live godly. It's not a mystery on how to live godly. You got to read about it. Verse 5.
Verse 5. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight.
Right. So here's something we was talking about last night. So it says, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. Remember we were talking last night about you have some people that want to bring back public execution. They're going to run into a brick wall because people don't want not only public execution, they don't even want to face punishment, period, for anything that they do. But like in our law, you're supposed to take them out, and whoever saw, if it's a sin worthy of death, if you saw it, you're supposed to be one of the first ones to go and put your hand on his head. You know what I'm saying? Showing that you was a witness on this. But not them. Oh yeah, it's all in their words. Like, they keep talking about, we was looking earlier, Putin this, Putin that. Meanwhile, you evil as hell. He's saying he don't want his people to have to go through the things that we're going through over here. Like, he said they protecting their kids from pedophiles. They're not making no laws to where you can, give them pronouns and change their sex in elementary school. He's not going to allow that. Somehow they pointing at him like he the devil. You know what I'm saying? So these people are so wicked over here. It's far above their sight. Go ahead.
As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them.
Go ahead.
Verse 6, he hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity.
They're going to find out, though. Everybody at some point, they're going to find out. Look at how many, I don't know if y'all paid attention this year. Look how many these young folks that's public influencers or social media influencers, and they get paid a lot of money.
Right.
How many of them have died this year? And last year?
It all depends on what they were pushing too.
True. But a lot of young folks, they got rich young on social media, and they dying for whatever reason. Boyfriend killing them. Girlfriend or the boy's boyfriend killing them. You know what I mean? Because one dude got killed by his one dude got killed by his boyfriend. Go ahead.
Verse 7, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity.
Now, you know what's funny about this right here, though? It said his mouth is full of cursing. Because, like, let's say, Joab, you know, in the group with the Christians, and they just keep antagonizing you and pushing you. And if you use an opprobrious word, oh, you did this, you did that. Okay, well, what about the lies you're telling?
Right.
You mean to tell me if I use a word, even a word like ass that's in the Bible, that I'm wicked, but you spewing out all kinds of lies and misleading the people, and you're not.
Right.
It don't make no sense. Read that again from the top, because it's saying that.
Book of Psalms chapter 10 and verse 7. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit
And deceit. And deceit. Go ahead.
and fraud.
And fraud. Go ahead.
Under his tongue is mischief and vanity.
That's why they're called, even, it's not just, we have people that we look at and we say, they're devils. They're the children of the devil. They're doing their job. But then you have our own people, and they're being devils too, because they're deceiving our people. Go ahead.
Verse 8, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor.
So you see how this is what's inside of these people, right? They're showing you what's manifest inside them. You're going to see it as we get into the story. Go ahead.
Verse 9, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones.
Right, he croucheth and humble himself. See, deceiving you into thinking that he's okay. No, he's not. Go ahead.
He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face. He will never see it.
Yeah, but we know the Lord's eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Come on.
Verse 12, arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble.
Right, forget not the humble. Like Psalms 83. Keep not silent, O Lord. Now let's go to Esther. Esther chapter 1, if I can find it. I always have trouble finding it. It's just certain, there's certain books you'd be like, where is it? Like Obadiah.
Mm-hmm.
What was that we pulled last night?
Pages.
Yeah, Haggai. All right, Esther chapter 1, verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
Right, so 127 provinces. So now Israel is scattered into all of these provinces. That covers a whole lot of territory, 127 provinces. So what this man said goes in all of his dominion. Go ahead.
Verse 2, that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace.
Some places you'll see it says Susa. Even on maps, sometimes it'll say Susa, sometimes it'll say Shushan. But this is where they were ruling from. And we have several brothers here. Well, in of high rank, like Zerubbabel. He was there. Go ahead.
Verse 3, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces, being before him.
Right. So this is the kingdom of Medo-Persia. Medo-Persia. Persians and the Medes. Go ahead.
Verse 4, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days.
So he's showing, they having a feast, and he's showing everybody all the magnificence, the pomp of his kingdom. Verse 9.
Verse 9, also Vashti, the queen, made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus.
Right. So Vashti, his queen, made a feast. And you know what? Because I was saying, it's different things going on in here, different aspects. So you got women calling themselves queens and bad bees and all this, right? But they don't need a man. Mm-mm. They don't need a man. So Queen Vashti, I'm not going to say she said she didn't need a man, but she had her own will. Go ahead.
Verse 10, on the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abitha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal.
So he's partying, got all his guests there, and he tells them, go and get the queen, tell the queen come before me.
They got the crown royal in here.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
To show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
Right. So he wants to show off, you know how brothers say, his piece. He wants to show off his piece, his woman. That's just how men are. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's in her. Yeah, look. Yeah, she fine. Ain't she? Yeah, look at her. Yeah. Go ahead.
Verse 12. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains.
Right. She refused to come.
She tripping.
Yeah, she tripping. People don't. Here's another thing. So the king is supreme over his nation. Mm-hmm. And everything is set up in a similitude of how the Lord wants it. He's the one that puts people in power and takes them out of power. He sets up kings and princes. It's set up after the similitude of his rulership. So the king is the end-all, be-all. He's the top. Even his military advisors have to come to him and say, oh, this is what's going on. This is what we could do, we should do. But he got the final word. So she refused. Go ahead.
Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment.
Mm-hmm. That knew law and judgment, because every nation has their own laws. They got their records. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And the next unto him was Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Merez, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat at the first in the kingdom.
They set first in the kingdom. They got to see his face. See, everybody don't get to do that. You don't. That's just the way it is. There's a hierarchy.
It's a lot of responsibility being in front of the king.
Yes, it is. See, and this, like, remember when the Queen of Sheba went before Solomon and saw how he had everything set up. This world we live in right now is absolute trash. And it starts with people's minds. You can't just run up on the daggone president, but people think that they're going to do that with Christ. Everything is in a similitude of how the kingdom's supposed to be, but you feel, and you know what I'm saying? You got like our boy that do them videos. He always showing a picture of Jesus hugging little kids and stuff. Like, come on, man. Y'all live in a fairy tale world. It's great responsibility. The king has power over life and death. You know what I'm saying? You being poor, you being rich. With just, you know what I'm saying, just a word. Go ahead.
Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law? Because she have not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Right. So they having counsel. What we gonna do about this? You ordered her to come. She refused. What we gonna do about this? Because you know what I mean. You know, it just crossed my mind. Kevin Samuels. Look at how the women, you know what I'm saying, was going at Kevin Samuels. What do you think about this right here? Watch what happens to Vashti. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only.
Right, not to the king only, because they got laws and judgments. Go ahead.
But also to all the princes and to all the people that are in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus.
See?
She offended.
Yeah. She was out the king. So he's the king. Everything's supposed to be in order. She steps out of line. She steps out of order. So what example does that set for the rest of the provinces? For all the people underneath his dominion, his rule. Remember in the movie Life when Rick James told he was talking to Eddie Murphy and he said, man, Spanky, man, you ain't have to do that to that man. That man is square. He said, well, what does that say about you, Rick? What does that say about me? Same thing. If I let you get away with it, everybody gonna try to do it. It's the same thing here. Go ahead, where's you at? 17?
Verse 17. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women.
Unto all women. Oh, okay. So all the women will hear about it, and then what you think gonna happen?
They think they'll be able to do that to their man.
Yep.
Because the queen did it to the king.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Go ahead.
So that they shall despise their husbands
See?
in their eyes.
Despise their husbands in their eyes, meaning they'll go against their husband. It's just like when if you don't keep God's commandments, you hate him. You despise him. He's saying the same thing. So they'll be like, oh, I ain't got to do what he said. It's a whole lot going on in this story. Go ahead.
When it shall be reported, the king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not.
Right, but she came not. She ain't doing so I ain't got to do it. You ain't the king. Why should I respect you like that?
Until reality slacker.
Yeah, into reality. Them people over there, I don't know if y'all heard of it, honor killings. Like one of their daughters be with multiple men. They play the whore. Several things they do. The father or the brother will kill them, and they call it honor killings. But it's only if they step out and do certain things, because you got the white man telling them, no, the white man be telling them y'all shouldn't do that under any circumstances and blah blah blah. Then what happens? Then if they stop that, then their women will start running wild, just like the women over here, just like the women of the West, in Western countries, people that believe in the philosophy and the doctrines of those nations, the European type nations. Go ahead.
Verse 18. Likewise, shall the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard the deed of the queen. Thus shall there arise too much contempt and wrath.
See? Then they gonna step out of line too. You don't, man, when you think about them women over there, they don't roll like over here, man. It's only among Esau. They cover themselves up. This place, I keep saying it, and I'm gonna keep saying it, this place is trash. Like when we showed the videos yesterday, you did not see one single woman with pants on. Every single woman in those videos had on dresses. Well, I'll say that one sister that was farming. Yeah, she had jeans. She was farming, but that ain't no excuse. Because we was out there picking. Our women was out there picking cotton in dresses, even the kids. But that's right there at when things start changing. Go ahead. Verse 19.
Verse 19. If it please the king, let there go out a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before King Ahasuerus.
Oh, so Vashti, they're saying let Vashti be kicked to the curb. Vashti is a bad bee. She an independent woman. Even though she depended on her husband, depending on her man, she got to go. Yeah, that's a term. You know what that reminds you? You remember Orange Juice Jones?
Yeah.
I saw you walking in the rain. Y'all probably too young for that, but he had got her from, I guess, I wouldn't say off the street, but she came from the hood, and he set her up, and she had everything she wanted, and then she went out and played the whore, and the same stuff she came with, that's what she left with. So, like, he sent Vashti back to, I ain't gonna say the projects, but back to her people. Go ahead.
And let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
Damn, man.
Straight up.
Yep. Take it from her and give it to somebody else. Man. I don't know. People be saying, our people love to say, oh, I'm a king and I'm a queen, but don't behave like a king or a queen. You look around, where do you see where somebody's any ruler's wife is stepping out of line? You don't see that.
Right.
You go like somewhere in Africa, they'll be stoning them. Yeah, they'll be stoning them or cutting their head off.
Well, it says Princess, what was her name? Princess Diana?
Oh, but that's not, that's Esau.
Yeah, but they,
That's Esau. I'm sure that they get down like that behind the
she's
scenes.
gonna go and leave with too many secrets. She had to die.
Right.
The king put the order out.
I'm talking about Western countries. Esau's subject to do anything. That's all in their history. Verse 22.
Verse 22. For he sent letters.
No, read 21, man.
Ver-
Read 21.
Verse 21. And the saying pleased the king. And
No, I'm sorry. Just 20 all the way down.
All right.
Just to make a point, man. Go ahead.
Verse 20. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both to great and small.
See, so no matter if you are, as they say today, a high value man or a low value, it don't matter. There's somebody for everybody. So they send this decree so that the women will respect their daggone husbands. Period. Respect their husbands. Come on.
Verse 21. And the saying pleased the king and the princes.
Mm-hmm.
And the king did according to the word of Memucan.
Mm-hmm.
For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, and to every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house.
Damn. Yo, man, why don't they make a law like that today?
It'd be too many a dime.
Bruh, this is crazy. Go ahead.
And that it should be published according to the language of every people.
Okay. Now,
Yo,
jump.
that's crazy. Imagine when she do go back to the hood.
You talk about shame.
Ridicule and shame.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
Like, you stupid.
Like you
Yeah.
got made, and now you back
Man,
getting
she'll be a
played.
hermit the rest of her life.
So Joab was making a point when she got evicted.
Right.
She no longer the queen. Right. So now you go back to your people, and now she got to bear that shame. And you know they're gonna be looking at her like you stupid as hell.
That's going to ride with her the rest of her life.
Right.
She'll never get over that.
You told the king no, you won't coming.
She might kill her damn self. For real.
Never know. Never know. Chapter 2, pick up at verse 4.
Book of Esther, chapter 2, and verse 4. And let the maiden, which pleaseth the king, be queen, instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so.
So because of what she did, now the king got to go through the process of picking him out another one. You know what I'm saying? So she was the queen. Yeah, she beautiful, but she was the queen. She done lost that. Not only she, you know what I'm saying, got to see this, but now he gets to pick.
Oh, my boy, window shop.
Yeah, he gets the window shop now on what he want. You know what I'm saying?
Like
And-
Flavor of Love.
Huh?
Like Flavor of Love. The Bachelor.
You're right. And he the bachelor. So he gets the pick of the litter, and on top of it, they already know the story. You can't step out of line. You know what I'm saying? So these women got to be like on Coming to America, the first one.
Yeah.
Whatever you like.
It's a bark like it though.
A big dog.
Go ahead.
Verse 5.
Yeah.
Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Jew whose name was Mordecai,
Mordecai. Go ahead.
the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite.
A Benjamite. A Benjamite. So for all you naysayers that be talking about the Jews is all 12 tribes, no, it's not. It's Judah, Levi, and Benjamin. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Who had been carried away from Jerusalem when the captivity which had been carried away from Jeconiah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away.
Yeah, the same Jeconiah from Jeremiah. Got carried into captivity. Even Matthew 1, I believe. Yeah, he's in Matthew 1. Because it was 14 generations from David to him. And then, no, I forget. I don't want to butcher it. Go ahead. You can read about Jeconiah in like Jeremiah 23, 24. Mainly 23. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful.
So hold on a second. He brought up Hadassah, that is Esther. So her Hebrew name was Hadassah. And her, I don't know, what would you call this language? But usually you have our names in Hebrew and then our names for our captors. Like, and a great example of that is when you read in Daniel about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because it gives their Hebrew name and then it gives their captivity name. Same with like when you go in, what is it? Acts chapter 9 with Tabitha. So one was Tabitha, the other was Dorcas. Go ahead. Start that verse 7 from the top. Read through.
Book of Esther, chapter 2, and verse 7. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter.
Right, so he took her for his own daughter. I had a brother hit me with this, talking about adoption. But y'all notice something. That's why I say it's a lot of stuff in here when you're reading. It don't jump out at you, but if you understand, like if you spend time reading the law and even just reading through the Bible, you'll see certain things pop up. So like when you're dealing with the quote unquote virgin birth doctrine, notice in here in Esther 2 and verse 4, it said, let the maiden which pleased the king. It's not saying virgin because they understand the difference. And then in verse 7, it said,
Same thing. And the maid.
yeah,
Fair.
and the maid was fair and beautiful. So, but you don't, when you get to the Greek language or the English, I don't know why it's written that way. When you get to the New Testament, they're just saying virgin. But it's really, because it's nothing more than a young woman of Israel. They use the term maiden to let you know she never been with a man. But, go ahead, verse 8.
Verse 8. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, the keeper of the women.
So you notice it keeps saying maidens. And I would imagine the reason it keeps saying maidens is because in order for you to get with the king or to become his wife, you cannot have been with another man.
Right.
Right.
Get the best of the best.
Right. What verse you at? 9?
9.
Yeah.
Verse 9. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him. And he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens, which were meant to be given her, out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women.
Dang. All of them maidens. All of them are maidens. I love that it's using that word and not virgins. Go ahead.
Verse 10. Esther had not showed her people, nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house, to know how Esther did, and what should become of her.
So he checked on her every single day. Now, I know for myself, I should be checking on people more than I do, but I got a lot on my plate. But still, I should be checking on people more than I do.
Same.
Jump to verse 15.
Verse 15. Now, when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abigail, the uncle of Mordecai, which had taken her for his daughter, was come to go in unto the king, she required nothing but what Haggai the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her.
She obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her. I'm gonna tell y'all something. Like this, I wanted to laugh out loud, but I didn't, because again, dealing with the virgin birth doctrine, right? People will say, a staunch Christian will say, you'll show them, there's 3 verses I go to that say verbatim that Joseph is the father. and they will say he was the stepfather. He was the stepfather. He adopted him. But nowhere does it say that he was a stepfather or he adopted him or took him as his own child. It doesn't say that. But right here, it does it a couple times. It says, now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai. So he's the biological father.
Right.
He was dead, so Mordecai stepped up to be her father. You don't see that nowhere about Joseph and Christ.
Remember when Maccabeus passed away, he gave the honor to one of his sons to become like their father.
Yeah. Sure did. He sure did. Go ahead.
Verse 16. So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus into his house royal in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign.
Mm-hmm.
And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the other virgins.
So, see, oh yeah, now it's calling virgins right here.
But it still means that
Yeah. She obtained grace and favor, which is the same thing. She obtained favor in his sight. That's something else. I should have came here when we did that class. Go ahead though.
So that he set the royal crown upon her head, and made her queen instead of Vashti.
So he done made his pick. But meanwhile, there's something going on behind the scenes, and the Lord is setting all of this up. He's setting all of this up for his people.
it's like when Saul, he acted out of pocket. The Lord started setting it up for David to come on in.
Yep.
He ain't got time to play.
Go ahead.
Verse 18. Then the king made a great feast unto all his princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and made a release to the provinces, and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate.
Mm-hmm.
Esther had not yet showed her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her.
So she had not told them she was a Jew. She was a Benjamite. Go ahead.
For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him.
So she was obedient. She was obedient to what he said. She was honoring him like a father. Come on.
Verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus.
Right. So there's something going on right here. So Mordecai overhears them. This is why we started with Leviticus 5. He overhears them. Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door. They were wroth and sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. So it's not really, it's showing you what's going on. They want to kill the king. But there's somebody missing right here that they're not mentioning. Keep going.
Verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name.
So Esther told the king, what Mordecai told her. So he's reported it. She reported it through his name. Now let's go to let's stop here. Go to the Apocrypha, Esther 12. Start at verse 1.
The rest of Esther in the Apocrypha, chapter 12, and verse 1. And Mordecai took his rest in the court with Gabitha and Thorah, the two eunuchs of the king and keepers of the palace. And he heard their devices and searched out their purpose.
So this is Bigthan and Teresh. Yeah, this is Bigthan and Teresh, the two eunuchs of the king. And he heard their devices and searched out their purposes. Go ahead.
And learned that they were about to lay hands upon Artaxerxes the king. And so he certified the king of them.
Right, meaning he told on them. He applied Leviticus 5:1. Come on.
Verse 3. Then the king examined the two eunuchs, and after that they had confessed it, they were strangled.
They were strangled. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And the king made a record of these things, and Mordecai also wrote thereof.
Right, so the king made a record. They had this written down. The nations do this. Go ahead.
Verse 5. So the king commanded Mordecai to serve in the court, and for this he rewarded him.
Right, so he told on them. So the king is like, damn. He saved his life because they was about to lay hands on him. So now Mordecai has found favor, just like Daniel, Joseph, and others in the kingdom. Now he done got exalted. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Howbeit, Amon, the son of Amadathias, the Agagite, who was in great honor with the king, sought to molest Mordecai and his people because of the two eunuchs of the king.
See? So Haman, the son of Amadatha the Agagite, he was behind it. He's, because later on the king gonna tell you, the king figures it out. He was the one that set this thing up. How we looking on time? Because we
are 52 minutes in.
just real quick, we're right here. Let's go to Judah 5 real quick. We're not going to read most of the account. We'll just hit a couple verses. Yeah, Judah. The other nations, they have records. The so-called white man be digging this stuff up all the time, finding all kinds of stuff. But they have always kept records. They know exactly who we are. Start at verse 5.
The book of Judith, chapter 5, and verse 5. And then said Achor, the captain of all the sons of Ammon, Let my Lord now hear a word from the mouth of thy servant, and I will declare unto thee the truth concerning this people.
See, concerning this people. Go ahead.
Which dwelleth near thee, and inhabiteth the hill countries, and there shall no lie come out of the mouth of thy servant.
Go ahead.
This people are descended of the Chaldeans.
It came from, like I said, Abraham came out of Ur of the Chaldees. That's where our people were. We were there. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And they sojourned heretofore in Mesopotamia, because they would not follow the gods of their fathers,
Right.
which were in the land of Chaldees.
Because the Lord told Abraham, leave from your people, because they were serving idols. Go ahead.
Verse 8. For they left the way of their ancestors and worshipped the God of heaven, the God whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia and sojourned there many days.
Right. So it's just, I wanted to go there to show they keep history and records of things. They know who we are. All of this stuff, or all these people having lighter skin is recent. It's within the last 100 years. There's been a lot of mixing, a lot of fornicating. Back to Esther. Let's go to, we're done in Esther 12. Back to Esther 2. Esther 2:22.
The book of Esther, chapter 2, and verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king.
Right. They were both hanged on a tree, and it was written down in the Chronicles, the book of Chronicles. So they had records. They all have records. Now, chapter 3 and 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
Now, ain't this... See how stuff happened? He tried to get these other two dudes that just got hanged. He tried to get them to kill the king, and now the king sets him up right up underneath him. Oh my goodness. All praises to the Lord, man. Watch him work, though. Keep going.
Verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not.
Right, Mordecai. I don't know his mind, but he probably said, I'm not bowing down to that Edomite. Not going to do it. I'm not bowing to a man. Go ahead.
Nor did him reverence. The king...
Right, nor did him reverence. But you know, the other people did. Yeah, all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor gave him reverence. Like, no, he wasn't doing it. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he had told them that he was a Jew.
So now they know. Now Haman knows that Mordecai is a Jew. Now what's an Agagite? Let's go to Genesis real quick. Genesis 36. Verse 16.
The book of Genesis, chapter 36, and verse 16. Duke Korah, Duke Gadam, and Duke Amalek.
Duke Amalek. Go ahead.
These are the dukes that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah.
Right. Adah was their mother. That's who Adah is. Not some dude. It's Esau's sons through Adah, one of his wives. So Amalek, Duke Amalek. Now, 1 Samuel 15. Just showing you real quick who Haman is. Now, many of us know, but for those who don't know. Go ahead. Verse 3.
The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 15, and verse 3. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass.
Go and kill everything is what the Lord told him to do. Go and kill everything. This goes back to Deuteronomy, how they treated us. Exodus 16, how they treated us. Now jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt.
Go ahead.
And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive.
Right, he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive. Remember, we read Haman was the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, meaning they come from the top tribe of the Edomites, Amalek. Amalek, they've always been a thorn in our side. Yeah, Duke. Go ahead. I mean, let's go back to Esther. Back to Esther 3. And verse 5.
Book of Esther, chapter 3, and verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath.
Right, so he's full of wrath. Now, let me ask you this. What happens today when you don't reverence the white man? Let's say you go to his court system. Or let's say a policeman pulls you over and you don't reverence him and acknowledge his authority over you. Right. What's going to happen? They be heated. Go ahead.
Look how upset he was when Bros was dealing during the anthem.
Oh my goodness. Mainly Colin Kaepernick. Burn his jersey.
You know what I'm saying?
They go Esau on you.
Yeah, he ain't reverenced the national anthem. He sat
Right.
down.
Just like when in Daniel. When Daniel didn't when the horn and the sack button the flute when they played that.
He wouldn't worship the statue.
Yeah, he wouldn't worship the statue and they was snitching on him. Why does the king allow this? Get him! Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews.
So first he wanted to destroy Mordecai alone, but now like, oh, no, he's a Jew. They're Jews. So now, no, not just Mordecai now, he wants to destroy all of Israel.
Remember the grape gatherer?
Right.
Yeah, he want all the grapes now.
Go ahead.
That were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Right, indeed, the people of Mordecai. So he sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom, from India all the way to Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And the first...
Well, jump to 8.
All right, verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom.
Now, who would that be? What certain people is scattered abroad and dispersed? The 12, like James 1:1 said, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad. It's like prophecy after prophecy after prophecy. Come on.
And their laws are diverse from all people.
So, how are their laws diverse? Because God separated them from the other people and gave them his laws. That's why they're different from everybody else's. That's why some people make laws like you can get married to anything, anyone, and anything. Go ahead.
Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them.
Yeah, so it's not profitable for the king to allow them. That's what suffer means. Allow them. So this is what you call propaganda. He's trying to get his way. He's trying to destroy us. Go ahead.
Verse 9. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business, to bring it unto the king's treasuries.
See that? So he's saying, I'll pay to have it done. He's second in the kingdom. Go ahead.
You see that though? He wanted it to happen faster, like with reckless abandon. First of all, if you're second in command, they ought to go by your order alone. You see what I'm saying? Your order is enough alone. You trying to hurry it up. by adding the money to that joint without examining nothing.
But the hatred is coming because it's not only because Mordecai didn't reverence him. It's because Mordecai snitched on his plan.
Right.
He had set up the plan. How do you think them dudes just got angry on their own? You know how Esau operates.
Somebody hyped him up.
Yup, he hyped him up and got him killed. And then he was mad because the king didn't get killed then, and he became top shotter in the nation. Go ahead.
Verse 10. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy.
See, the Jews' enemy. All the way from the beginning, it was the first of all the nations. The Agagite. Now, John. Right, the plot thickens. Verse 13.
Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post in all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews,
Damn.
both young and old, little children and women,
No mercy. Go ahead.
in one day.
In one day. Mm-hmm.
Even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, to take the spoil of them for a prey.
Right. So he had it set up on this particular day in all the provinces to have all of our people put to death, man. So evil. So evil. So evil.
You're trying to pull an Antiochus.
Yup. Yeah, like you had Antiochus, which they're the same. When you look at Antiochus and Alexander now, they come out of Macedonia, which is the same people. These same people. This Agagite, the same people. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he's Macedonian. We'll read it though. We're gonna get to it. Chapter 4, start at 1.
Book of Esther, chapter 4 and verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes, and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews,
Damn.
and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved.
She was exceedingly grieved. So the word is spreading that all of them are going to get put to death. All of them going to be hurt. So everybody's grieving. They're calling out to the Lord. Go ahead.
And she sent raiment and cloth, Mordecai, to cloth Mordecai, and to take away the sackcloth from him. But he received it not.
Nope. Now, jump down to verse 10, I believe. Yeah, 10.
Verse 10. Again, Esther spake unto Hathach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai.
Mm-hmm.
All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death.
So anybody that comes before him without being called or don't have an appointment, their law is that person is supposed to be put to death. But remember, it said that she had grace and favor in his sight. He chose her to be the queen. And what does the king want? What does any man want from their wife anyway? Other than for her to be in subjection and be obedient. Mm-hmm. Not that they, runs over them. Mm-hmm. That's somebody that run over their woman, that's evil.
Right.
But a man, like when you read in the Apocrypha, you see a man want nothing more. Cause Zerubbabel was saying that. Man, he'll go to the top of a damn mountain and bring his woman back something that she wanted from up there. But then they want to dog you out? Come on, man. Like we was talking to the brother today. Like everything is out of order. When the kingdom comes, because everybody think it's just something magical. No, everybody's gonna fall in line with these daggone laws. That's what's gonna make everything be in order. Go ahead.
Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter.
So, if you come in unannounced, you show up there unannounced, you ain't been called, he can show you grace, pull out the scepter. Go ahead.
That he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days.
Right, so she hadn't been called, so she's saying, I can't go in there. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews.
Right, so he's saying, don't matter, because when they find out you're a Jew, then they're going to come for you too. Because you can't go back on the king's commandment. Not even he can go back. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Verse 14. But if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place.
Meaning the Lord will find another way.
But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Yeah, he's saying you don't know. The Lord might have raised you up just for this. And when you look at the circumstances surrounding it, he did raise her up for that. Go ahead.
Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer.
Mm-hmm.
Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days.
So go and fast 3 days. Neither eat nor drink. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about the quote unquote Daniel fast, where you eat and drink. And it wasn't a fast. He was abstaining from unclean food, man, unclean meat. Go ahead, finish that off.
Night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
Right. If I perish, I perish. Let's go back to the Apocrypha real quick. Chapter 15 and verse 5.
The rest of Esther in the Apocrypha, chapter 15 and verse 5. And she was ruddy through all the perfection of her beauty.
Ruddy.
Through,
So here's another thing. So that word ruddy, you have the definition they say means rosy cheeks. You can see the blood through their face. That's the definition they have. But when you look in the scriptures, that definition does not match. The only one it matches up with is Genesis 25 with Esau. It don't match up with nothing else. The rest of the places is talking about beauty, having a good look. It's not. How can it mean? Every time you see it, it's talking about like a youthful appearance or beauty, but at the same time, it's talking about the complexion of Esau, who came out like one who's half dead. You know what I'm saying? Has the look of a leper. So that don't make no damn sense. Read that verse from the top.
rest of Esther chapter 15 and verse 5. And she was ready through the perfection of her beauty.
So it can't mean she was red through the perfection of her beauty. It's just talking about being beautiful. It's describing a look. Like David was a youth and ruddy. Because like when you look at someone, you can tell somebody's young from somebody that's old. They have like a brighter countenance. They're not red. Foolishness. Go ahead.
And her countenance was cheerful and very amiable, but her heart was in anguish for fear.
So you can see it's talking about how she looked. Now she was in fear, rightfully so. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Then having passed through all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne, and was clothed with all his robes of majesty, all glittering with gold and precious stones.
Oh.
And he was very dreadful. Then lifting up his countenance, that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her, and the queen fell down, and was pale, and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the maid that went before her. Then God.
So look, she playing it perfectly. Now you know she already got favor. He done chose her to be wife. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he not only he looking at her like, what's going on? I know ain't no. Don't tell me somebody said something or did something to you. Just say the word. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Then God changed the spirit of the king into mildness.
See, God changed the spirit. Yep. Yeah. Like Joab said, he controls the heart of the king. The heart of the king is in his hand. Go ahead.
Who in a fear leaped from his throne and took her in his arms.
See that? Hey, yo. What's going on with my wife? Now he done turned into he done turned into something else. Yeah. He done turned into, Beauty and the Beast. Go ahead.
Till she came to herself again and comforted her with loving words and said unto her.
Hold on, that went from her being she might get killed stepping up in that jam to he comforting her.
Right.
Lord got him, boy. He got him. Go ahead.
Esther, what is the matter?
Yeah, what's the matter? What is the matter?
I am thy brother. Be of good cheer. Thou shalt not die, though our commandment be general. Come near. And so he held up his golden scepter and laid it upon her neck, and embraced her, and said, Speak unto me. Then said she unto him, I saw thee, my lord, as an angel of God, and my heart was troubled for fear of thy majesty.
She landed on, boy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Verse 14. For wonderful art thou, Lord, and thy countenance is full of grace.
See, notice he's calling her Lord, but not, it ain't no capital L right there.
Right.
Even we have a Lord. Whoever's over us is our Lord. That's crazy nowadays, though. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And as she was speaking, she fell down for faintness. Then the king was troubled, and all his servants comforted her.
All right. Now go back to regular Esther in chapter 5. You notice that it's like when you're reading in the Apocrypha, Esther and Apocrypha, it's going into detail. It's just like Ezra and Esdras, which all of this, anything that's in the quote unquote Apocrypha, they say, oh, it's not God breathed. Shut up. Everything is written for a reason. These are great examples for us. Look at her bravery. It helped save our people.
Right.
And you be talking about it's not salvific. Yeah, they have not the spirit. Verse 1.
The book of Esther, chapter 5 and verse 1. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne, and the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter.
See how much they left out? Go ahead.
that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom.
Oh, she got favor. I'll give you half the kingdom. Go ahead.
And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him.
Let the king and Haman come. Go ahead.
Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Uh-oh. Come on.
And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. Then answered Esther and said, My petition and my request is,
My petition and my request is. Go ahead.
if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition, and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful, with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai.
Like, this dude would not reverence me for nothing. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king.
Come on.
Haman said moreover, Yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself.
Yeah, he bragging, boy. He going in. Go ahead.
And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate.
Right. So above all of that, he's angry. Yeah, he got that hatred for Mordecai. This Jew won't reverence me.
All this goodness going on around, you worry about that one dude.
Yep. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
His wife telling him this. So you got him and his wife, and you got Esther and Mordecai. Go ahead.
Then go thou and merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Now, you just remember last night we said, I made the point. When the white man is doing things, his wife is right behind him. She got his back.
A lot of the time, she's the one that's putting the ideas in his head.
Mm-hmm. This how we need our sisters to be, behind their husbands. If you don't have a husband, be behind the movement 100%. All right, 6.
All right.
Keep going. Yeah, keep
Book
going.
of Esther, chapter 6 and verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king.
Them records. They had it written down in the records. So while this evil dude is plotting to kill Mordecai and all the Jews, now the king can't sleep. And he calls for the records.
That guy at camp that they talking about, don't worry about going back into history. That's why he going in the records. He need to check history.
Right.
You gotta go check the
Yep.
history, man.
Yep. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, What honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this?
Right. What reward did we give Mordecai for this? He saved my life. Go ahead.
Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, There is nothing done for him. And the king said, Who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house, to speak unto the king, to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him.
Go. So he, at this time, he coming to have Mordecai put to death, but the king just read
What Mordecai
and came
did.
to memory what Mordecai did for him. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And the king's servant said unto him, Behold, Haman standeth in the court. And the king said, Let him come in.
Yeah, let him come in.
So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, What shall be done unto the man who the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And Haman answered the king, For the man who the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal, which is set upon his head.
Uh-huh.
And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man with all whom the king delighteth to honor.
That joint up.
Yeah, because he think it's for him. He like spare no expense, go all out.
Yo.
Go ahead.
And bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man who the king delighteth to honor.
Okay.
Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew.
Yo, can you imagine somebody you figure is your worst enemy? You got everything going for you in your favor. But you look this one dude, you look at him, you just like, I want to kill that
Yeah.
so and so. And the king tells you, honor this man with everything that you just said. Yeah.
Take that to Mordecai.
Go.
Make it happen.
Go ahead. Even so to Mordecai the Jew. Go ahead.
That sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
Yo, man. Yo, this gonna happen again.
Yes.
It's gonna happen again on a grand
Right
scale.
before our enemies.
Yep, on a grand scale. Oh, go ahead.
Verse 11. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man who the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, having his head covered. That's that bitter cry.
Yeah. Once again.
Y'all
Once
just
again.
Like Esau.
Yeah, once again, you don't get the kingdom. He didn't get the kingdom right here. Had it all set up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews,
What, the seed of the Jews?
the seed,
Go ahead.
before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him.
They already know. That means they know that our God has him in favor.
Yep.
We not gonna win. They
Yep.
know that.
Yep. The reason that happened is because he's fighting for them, fighting for us. Go ahead.
And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Uh-oh. So now he getting ready to go to the banquet. He he hurt. he hurt, and it's gonna get worse.
Last time I heard about a banquet, somebody got their head cut off.
Mm.
This is another banquet right here.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 7, verse 1.
So everything now, she did this the day before. She set up this banquet, and then that night, the king then looked back, and here come Haman, and he's like, honor Mordecai the Jew with everything that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
This dude is hit and hurt right now, and that's just the half of it. Now time for the banquet. Go ahead.
Go.
Book of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 1. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom.
Go ahead.
Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request.
So my life and my people's life at my request. Go ahead.
Verse 4, For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish.
Go ahead.
But if we have been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue.
Right. So if it was just captivity, us going through captivity, or going through, being a bondmaid or bondman, being in hard bondage. Go ahead.
I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he? Where is he? What durst presume his heart to do so?
Now he like, who? Here come them questions. Who? Where he at?
Boy, Haman is, his heart in his stomach, right?
Yeah, I know, right? At the bottom of his feet. It's hard at the bottom of his feet. Go ahead.
And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Yes. And he was bragging about this banquet. It's just the three of them.
Where he going?
Go ahead.
Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen.
Now he could see, I don't know if he realized yet that she was a Jew. She had not told what her nation was. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath,
Go in his wrath. Go ahead.
went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
Now you got to ask Esther for your life. You was going to kill her and all her people. Go ahead.
For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king.
He knew it. The king got up and stormed out. He knew it. He knew it was like, the king was thinking. Yeah, you hit, bro. You hit.
You set up all this.
Yep. You wanted to kill all these people. And these are not evil people.
And me.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And Harbona, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good for the king.
See, spoken good for the king. That good deed that go right back to the commandments. Go ahead.
Standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon.
So the very device. The very device. Now I wonder what his wife think, because she was the one that came up with the idea. Put that picture. Put the picture up there. And this is the very thing that they have been doing to our people and still be doing to this day. Hanging us. Yep. So, and it ain't just Haman that's going to happen to. Oh, man, I'm telling you, this is such an awesome story. All right, you can come back to us. Keep going, chapter 8.
Chapter 8.
Oh, did you read 10?
Now read 10.
Yeah, read 10.
chapter 7 and verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Right. Then was his wrath pacified. He was heated, boy. He was heated. Chapter 8 and 1. Now we're going to start. We read them 2 chapters straight through, but we're going to start skipping now.
Chapter 8 and verse 1. On that day did King Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her.
Right. What Mordecai was unto her. But he gave the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, yet again, unto Esther the queen. Man, when you think about our father's name, Jacob. It means usurper. Like to grab hold of the heel when he came out, right? So that means that it's going to be given to us. It's going to be taken from them. It's going to be given to us. That's why I said, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is that which began. The kingdom is going to be given to the saints. We're going to take the kingdom. That's the will of the Lord, too. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
Damn. See that? It's taken from him and then given. Go ahead.
He became servant.
Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears, to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews.
Right, so all of this is going on, but still the order has gone out through all the provinces to kill the Jews. So she's like, please, stop that. Stop that. Rescind that. It ain't like they could email you or text you.
Right.
They had to go out and tell them. Go ahead.
Then the king had held the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people?
See, my people. Not about her. It's not about her and, being an independent woman. And she didn't even have parents. Her parents were dead, so Mordecai took her. That was his niece. Come on.
Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred?
Right. Who else said this? Several prophets said this. Why was I born at this time? To see the suffering of my people. See the type of mind you got to have? It can't be about you. It's about us.
Right.
Us. Let me just real quick. Every day when I give my prayers, it's for us. It's for us. It ain't about me. It ain't about just you or you at home. It's about all of us. That's the will of the Lord. It's for our nation, our people. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, made no man reverse.
You can't change it. You can't change it. Now jump down to 12, I believe. 11.
Verse 11. Wherein the king granted the Jews, which were in every city, to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people in province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely, upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar.
All right, the 13th day of the month of Adar. So this is tomorrow night, y'all. Jump down to verse 17. Here's another controversial verse.
Verse 17. In every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
Yeah, Christians are under the seat. You can become a Jew. No. Even when you look that word up right there, it's talking about becoming, keeping the commandments. That's it. You can't become a Jew. That's why Haman's wife said, if they be of the seed, they know that, what was that word? When you look it up, Judaize. Meaning they kept the commandments for fear of the Jews. Joint crazy. Chapter 9, 1 and 2.
Book of Esther, chapter 9 and verse 1. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in extension, in the day that the enemies
Execution.
Execution, and the day that the enemies of the Jews hope to have power over them.
See, the days of the enemies, not just Haman, enemies, he had people too, of the Jews. Go ahead.
Though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them.
Wow, that's going to happen again. Go ahead.
Verse 2. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all the people.
Right, the fear of us fell upon all people. I just wanted to mention this. I didn't have it in my notes, but I want you to read, give me verse 5 and verse 10.
Verse 5. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter, and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them.
See, unto those that hated them. Oh, verse 10.
Verse 10. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha.
Remember he was bragging about everything he had, including all his children? All these wicked sons.
The enemy of the Jews.
The enemy of the... Who is the enemy of the Jews? You go all the way back to Exodus. Amalek, the number one. Amalek. Go ahead.
Slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand.
Right, they didn't lay their hand on the spoil, meaning their goods. Now, 13.
Verse 13. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows.
Go ahead.
Verse 14. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand.
Right, so it was the 13th and the 14th, 2 days. Jump down to 17.
Verse 17. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Go ahead.
But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
Yeah, they parted. Keep going.
Verse 19. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions to one another.
See, sending portions one to another. Go ahead.
Verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things, and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far.
And you know what's, I was going to say, you know what's funny, but so remember, they're in the captivity, they're in Shushan. When they come out, which is not, Esther and Mordecai didn't come out, but later you had Zerubbabel, Ezra, and Nehemiah and them come out and go back and start rebuilding in Jerusalem. That's where in Nehemiah 8, and it said this day it was a new moon, and they said the same thing. Send portions to one another. Same thing. This is how we like, you know how we said, the way that, because everything is written through the Spirit of the Lord, and he uses a certain language. And they all do, they write it and speak the same way. That's why these weird books, be like,
Right.
that don't sound like the Lord.
Don't sound like the Lord.
Don't sound like something he would do either.
Right. And they swear they know him, but when you read that KJV, you understand it. You see that spirit, you know how to speak.
Right. That ain't in them other joints, man.
Not at all.
Verse 24.
Verse 24. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them.
Right, to consume us and destroy us. Verse 28.
Verse 28. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
From their seed. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim and their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed.
Their seed. Go ahead.
The matters of the fasting and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book.
And it was written in the book.
The book.
Right. Now go down to 10 and verse 2, man. Well, no, it's 3, at the last verse.
Chapter 10 and verse 3. For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, the great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people.
Oh, seeking the wealth of his people. Oh, go ahead.
And speaking peace to all his seed.
Meaning all the people. Speaking peace. That's a lover of the brethren.
Right.
Dang.
It ain't gonna just be me on the come up.
Right. Everybody coming with me.
Right.
Let's go to Apocrypha Esther 16. We're almost done. 16 and 10.
The rest of Esther in the Apocrypha chapter 16 and verse 10. For Ammon, a Macedonian.
A who?
A Macedonian.
Just like Alexander. Just like Philip, Alexander, and Ptolemy, and all of them. Go ahead.
For Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Ammedatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us.
Yep, as a stranger received of them. Go ahead.
Had so far forth obtained the favor that we show toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all men, as the next person unto the king. But he...
Hold on. Showing you how the nations treat people. I mean, really. You go places, man, people of other nations, like I can go somewhere where Arabs got a store or something and just talk to them and get along with them fine. Like you know what I'm saying, right down the street. And you go in there and, they'll try to sleep with the women. But they have a certain respect. You know what I'm saying? A certain air about them. Many different nations of people I've come across. But it's some particular ones that are really bad. Even so, like in the video game community, I deal with a lot of Moab and Ammon. And they always trying to keep peace.
Yeah. I mean, that's their culture. When you get
Right. Right. They're another one.
Right.
They can't stand dishonor.
Exactly.
They will kill themselves.
Exactly.
But this man that we live underneath, they ain't got no honor, man. They shameless. Like I said, Baruch, a shameless nation. Dang. Go ahead.
Verse 12. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life.
See, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life. So that's why he had Big Thun and Tertha. He was going to try to get them to kill the king, hype them up to kill the king so he can slide on in there and take the kingdom. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Having by manifold and cunning deceits
See, by manifold and cunning deceits. Go ahead.
sought of us the destruction, as well of Mordecaius, who saved our life and continually procured our good.
See, when you living by the commandments, you're not being evil to anybody. Come on.
As also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom, with their whole nation.
See, because we're keeping the commandments, living righteously. What can anybody say about you? Man, Haman's wife understood. If they the seed of them, if they're the seed of them, God is fighting for them. That's why all this happened.
Bro, she already knew they were dead. Once it started unfolding, she
Yep.
already knew.
Yep.
What?
That's why she made that comment. If they be of the seed,
Oh, we done. Cause she already, cause Esther already was right there with the king. That's his wife.
Yep.
So she already knew. Oh, we dead. When they uncover this mystery, we dead.
Right. Go ahead. And see how all of it happened right there. It looked like a little 48-hour span. All of this just played out. The Lord was just like, let it play out. Go ahead.
Verse 14. For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians.
See, so his goal was to translate the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians. It wasn't time yet, because this happened with Darius. When later, not too long after this, with the Persians and the Medes. All right, go ahead.
Verse 15. But we find that the Jews, whom this wicked wretch hath delivered to utter destruction, are no evildoers, but live by most just laws.
And remember I said, so he tried to translate it, because right then, they were Macedonians. They hadn't overtaken the Greeks yet. This hadn't happened yet. So, trying to think of what time. So, you don't have... so this is the captivity before the Greeks, before the Romans. So they return from captivity in order for you have the Hasmonean dynasty, the Maccabees. This is before they returned and rebuilt the temple in order for them to even be there. But he's there at that time. He's trying to translate the kingdom over to the Greeks then. But like I said, it wasn't time yet, because prophecy had to be fulfilled. The prophecy of Daniel which was written right before this happened. So you had that prophecy with them coming from the coast of Kittim. You know what I'm saying? And being the first to rule over Greece and all that. Everything has to happen as it's written. Go ahead. But it said, but we find that the Jews whom this wicked wretch had delivered to utter destruction. He was trying to just utterly destroy us. It says, are no evildoers, but live by the most just laws. Would that go back to Deuteronomy, where the nation's supposed to look at you and say, this is a wise and understanding people. Verse 16.
Verse 16. And that they be children of the Most High.
Oh my goodness. No, everybody's children of the Most High. Right. And that they be children of the Most High.
And most mighty living God.
Living God. You never see living deal with any other God. Go ahead.
Who have ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner.
So they understood God is the one that sets you up and gives you dominion over the earth. But you look at the white man, he think it's because of him. Remember Nebuchadnezzar, he had it taken from him because he wasn't honoring the Lord.
Mm-hmm. For like what, 7 years?
Yep, 7 years. So he said, who have ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. Even the Pharaoh of Egypt understood. When he went to go fight them, he said, the God of Israel, the living God, told me go do this. Yep. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Wherefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the letters sent unto you by Ammon, the son of Ammedatha.
Double.
For he that was the worker of these things is hanged at the gates of Susa.
See, earlier it was Shushan. Well, in regular Esther is Shushan. Here is Susa. Go ahead.
With all his family.
With all his family. Ain't nobody coming back for revenge. Go ahead.
God, who ruleth all things, speedily rendering vengeance to him according to his deserts.
Now, go to jump to 20. We're almost done, y'all.
Verse 20. And ye shall aid them, that even the same day, being the 13th day of the 12th month, Adar, they may be avenged on them, who in the time of their affliction shall set upon them. For Almighty God hath turned the joy unto them the day, wherein the chosen people should have perished.
Chosen people should have perished. Come on.
Verse 22. Ye shall therefore among your solemn feasts keep it in high day with all feasting.
All right, you good. You good. So tomorrow night, Lord's will, everybody it's a 2-day feast. Try to have yourself a 2-day feast in honor of what the Lord did for us in captivity. Keep the commandments, y'all. Keep God's commandments. So there you have Purim. This is what happened in what we call Purim. This is why we keep this feast. Speaking of feast, I'm hungry. I'm ready to go eat myself. So that's been today's class, y'all. I'm Brother Jacob.
Brother Jeremiah.
And we got Brother Joab on the Wheels of Steel tonight. All right, y'all. With that, we say shalom.
Book of Matthew, chapter 18 and verse 21. Then came Peter to him and said, "All shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him till 7 times."
It ain't nowhere that I can't go. You see me, you see him. I'm like children in the flame though. It's because I follow him though. He the light to my feet, it's like flames what I follow. But let me stop for you heathos. I've been crossed many times, so yes, I know the pain, yo. And forgive is where I ain't go. Told the brother get in line, giving shots like a needle. I've been sinning for real, murder, but I ain't killed for real. Shot for shot to seal the deal. Now I'm here, just swallow the pill. Now I'm woozy, don't know how to act. Devilish mind on Philly attack. My spirit to flesh had taken it back, and I ain't thinking about bringing it back. Tap, tap, I think I ain't hear it right. The Lord come like a thief at night, but I ain't believe the hype. Yeah, like Saul when I seen the night, but had me feeling like Paul when I found the light. Cap, 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 cap. You say you love your people, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you don't be lying, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say cap, 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 cap. You say you love your nation, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you done with envy, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say.
So Peter said, if a brother sin against me, he offends, he does something unlawful. Could have took your money, could have tail beared again, any of those types. How many times should I forgive? 7 times? Because 7 was a complete number. What did the matter?
Jesus said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7.